Should the government have access to everybody's cell phone records to fight terrorism? Today, a federal appeals court in New York said no. The court ruled the government had overstepped its bounds by using the Patriot Act to get records for every cell phone call made in the United States. Local 12's Joe Webb joins us with more on the story. Joe?
Well, Rob, that court ruling is very timely because the parts of the Patriot Act that allow the collection of that so-called metadata, who you're calling and how long you talked, those parts will expire at the end of this month. That's unless Congress votes to extend them. And one local congressman is leading the fight to get rid of the entire Patriot Act.
Every day, millions of Americans make cell phone calls, and every day, in the name of fighting terrorism, the government collects data on those calls. It's called metadata. When the call was made, who was on either end of the call, and how long it lasted. It also gathers basic information about the location of both parties. Today, in Over the Rhine, that did not seem to be a problem for law-abiding cell phone users.
Does that bother you that they have access to all that information?
It doesn't really bother me. I mean, I feel like I'm not really making any calls that it would be a problem. So, no.
For me, personally, it doesn't really bother me just because, like you said, I don't really have anything to hide, and I pretty much my transactions in terms of text messages and calling are my family, and I just to tell them that I love them and that I miss them.
But a federal appeals court in New York ruled that data collection is illegal, not authorized by the Patriot Act. Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massie talked about the Patriot Act during a visit to Holy Cross High School today.
What the court ruled is what I've been saying for a while, which is they're overstepping their bounds. It's absolutely accurate to call this spying on innocent Americans.
Massie's leading the fight in Congress to not only not renew those sections of the Patriot Act, but to repeal the whole thing.
There's a perception that this data is only used to find terrorists or to track down terrorists or to stop terrorist events. The reality is we now know that they're searching in these databases to look for other infractions.
Now, Congressman Massie claims agencies like the IRS, DEA, and FBI can use the data and gather information that normally requires a search warrant. And Rob, despite the court ruling, it does not stop that data collection. The court says it's up to Congress to work out the details, and they've got a few weeks to figure that out.
Joe, were you surprised by what you found on the street today from the people you interviewed? They didn't seem to care.
Well, frankly, I was, and when I told Congressman Massie that, he said that he wasn't really surprised because he thinks that most people don't know about this. You know, I personally don't have a real deep fear about it because I'm like those people. I'm not saying things in my phone calls that could get me in any trouble. But when you start thinking about all of the information they're gathering, it's eye-opening.
Yeah, it certainly is, yeah.
It is.
Joe, thanks very much. Congressman Massie says most Americans have no idea how much data is being collected about them every day. He says most congressmen didn't even know about metadata until Edward Snowden released some of those files that he had taken from the NSA. That happened in 2013, you may recall.